question I put to the Treasury Minister, Stephen Timms, who's been dealing with this area of policy, is the question about the impact of furnished holiday letting and the new tax rules which are coming in from the beginning of next month. The proposals which the government launched last year will have a rather bizarre, and I suspect very much an unintended consequence of treating different holiday letting businesses in a very, very different way. Those businesses which let, for example, a static boat will be treated as trading. Those which let static caravans may or may not, depending on the definition and the interpretation of the inspectors at the time, be treated as trading. Whereas if you let a static chalet or property for holiday lets, then you will definitely not be treated as trading. In those circumstances, and I asked the Minister yesterday, how can they justify this, creating a tax environment which is going to have a very significant and detrimental impact on those holiday letting businesses like those on the Isles of Scilly that are letting chalets and properties and cottages, as opposed to others that are letting property in a rather different way. A lot of people have been complaining about this. I thought that following a debate I held 2 weeks ago on property taxation, where I cornered a minister on that occasion and asked them to justify, which they're still not able to justify it at all. It really is very, very frustrating.
What would you like to happen?
Well, I would like the government to withdraw the proposals and to go back to the thinking stage, and to come out and to discuss with the tourist industry what would be the best way of establishing an even playing field, not just across Europe, which is what they claim they're trying to achieve, but also across the holiday letting, if you like, businesses as a whole, because there is going to be a tremendous amount of inconsistency. A lot of very significant businesses that have been running operations for decades are now, I think, going to be facing very significantly different tax environment than the one they have in the past, and it's going to undermine, I think, the viability of many of those businesses into the future.
And what has the government said in response to you?
They're saying that they're going to implement it come what may. They're not considering any possible variations. They haven't been able to answer questions about the justification for it, other than retreating behind the pan-European regulatory environment, which is the justification for it, which I don't think is sufficient, because the government is able to vary its approach on these issues and other areas of European regulation. They should be able to go back to Europe and renegotiate, and they certainly have an entire tourist industry that are up in arms about the impact of this particular regulation.
And have you had representations from people on the islands already?
Some people on the islands have expressed concern about this tax. I think a lot of them perhaps are not fully aware of the impact it's likely to have. I think the larger and the more established the business, and it is the well-established businesses that have built up a capital value on properties over a long period of time, that are going to be affected most by this.
So, obviously without mentioning names, what kind of financial penalty, if you like, in those terms, are people potentially suffering? What sort of figures are we talking about? Why are people angry about it?
Well, the impact over time, and it really depends on each and every business. The environment is very different, but there are certainly some on the mainland whose books I've been going through, who are going to be losing at the point, for example, of the sale of the business, many hundreds of thousands of pounds as a result of this change. That's going to have an impact on the collateral which they can, if you like, demonstrate they have in the business for the purpose of for example, going to the bank for a loan to invest in the future of the business itself. So the impact is going to be one which will be a knock-on effect on the business and their ability to be able to invest in its future.